Hello and welcome to the DeHart House. My name is Alicia. You can find me on Ravelry as AlittyKnitsToo and on Instagram as ReadKnitRun. Today is Sunday, February 11th of 2018, and this is episode 30 of the podcast. So this is a podcast about knitting and crocheting and sewing and just all the crafts. I'm coming to you from West Texas, and it is actually a cold day out today. It started out at about 25 degrees Fahrenheit when I woke up, and with a breeze going on, weather.com said it was that it felt like 13 degrees Fahrenheit, so yeah, a proper chilly morning, so we're hanging out indoors today. Hey, if you're a new viewer, thanks for stopping in, and if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. This is generally a podcast about knitting and sewing, crocheting, other crafts pop up here and there, so anyway. Yeah, so it's episode 30. So I'm a little off kilter today. Announcements. We usually start with announcements. So the Cozy Couch Make-Along is still going on. Again, that's a year-long knit-along. So for all of 2018, knit all the adult-sized blankets, crochet, sew. It's a make-along, so any craft is fine. In the DeHart House Podcast Group on Ravelry, I have a chatter thread going and a finished objects thread going. So once you finish your adult-sized blanket, you'll put it on the couch, take a picture, make it look all cozy, and then post it in the finished objects thread. In the meantime, do post in the chatter thread. So, yeah. Post in the chatter thread, talk about progress, encourage each other. I just checked it this morning and people are already chattering, so thank you for participating and encouraging each other and posting pictures. It's super exciting. So making a blanket is a big commitment. If you haven't done it, you should try it. It's super gratifying when you finish a huge project like an adult-sized blanket. So, yeah, it's a good feeling. So, do join in, do participate. Don't post in the finished objects thread until you're finished. I don't have any size requirements, just that it be an adult-sized blanket. So, whatever dimensions you desire, go for it. And any pattern, any craft making it, really. It's a make-along, so it doesn't have to be knitting. And encourage your friends to join in. Oh, and feel free to enter your blanket in other knit-alongs or make-alongs. You don't just have to participate in mine. Do double dip in other make-alongs and enter to win prizes. So, okay. That's it for announcements. So let's talk about knitting. I don't have any finished objects, so I'm going to skip that section and just talk about my works in progress. So I've got like 4 things going if you count my blanket. So my worsted weight scrap blanket, which is the reason I started the make-along, was to motivate me to knit on my blanket. Excuse me. So I'm knitting a mitered square blanket, and last week I put 5 squares on the blanket. This week so far I've put on 2, so I need to put on a couple more today to keep up with my goals. Yeah, it's in the other room. It's in the living room. So I'm not going to show it today, but I will show it next time. How's that sound? So my other works in progress, I have a shawl going. So this is in my, for those of you who don't know, I have an Etsy shop. It's DeHart House Creations, and I have handmade bags, stitch markers, and yarn is what I sell. So here's one of my bags. You can see my label there, if it will ever focus. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. So this is one of my bags. It has snap closures. And in here is the shawl that I'm working on for my mother. And I've made a little bit of progress. So this stitch marker here, or progress keeper, stitch marker, progress keeper, whatever, it's a compass. That's about where I was last week. I put it on after knitting a little bit and kind of guessed, so I was about there last week, so I'm making some progress. The pattern I'm following is a boomerang pattern written by Dramatic Knits. At least I got it from his project page. I don't know if he got it from somewhere else or if this is his creation, but that's my source. It's Dramatic Knits on Ravelry, and I've copied the instructions over into my project pages for the boomerang shawls. So this I'm calling my watercolor boomerang because the yarn is Lorna's Laces and the colorway is watercolor. So this is a fingering weight yarn. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And I really like how the pooling and flashing is going. So like at the beginning it's almost striped, and then it started doing this, like the reds were clustered here and the blues were clustered here, and I just think it's looking really cool, and I feel like you can see it better in person, but yeah, you can see the big cluster of red here. Yeah. I'm having fun. It's a very mindless knit because it is a garter stitch shawl. It's just knit, 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 knit. And it's perfect when watching an intense TV show. Michael and I are watching a lot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and we're in season 3 right now. We're watching it on Netflix, and it's a really good TV show. Like, yeah, it's very intense. Of course, there are plot twists. We're starting to see patterns and getting a little sick of the patterns we're seeing, so we're hoping they'll switch it up. But I think the storyline is great. I think what they've done so far is great, and I'm excited to see what they do next. So, no spoilers, very general and not specific at all about the show. Whatever. Okay. So not like significant progress on the shawl, but I think I like doubled the number of rows, so that's good. I don't have like a specific end date I need to meet, but Mom's birthday is in May, so it'd be nice if I finished it before then. It's February, I think I have time. Okay, so my next work in progress, let me just show you this, okay? This is another one of my bags. It's a Star Wars bag. And I ordered a pin on Etsy from Pin Alchemy. And I'm a math teacher. And he has some really sciencey, nerdy pins in his shop, and I saw this one and I had to have it. That's right, guys. Oh my god. Anyway, I put it on this bag. I just had to have this pin. Whatever. It does not in any way match this bag, and I don't care. So in here are socks for Michael, and I'm just going all over with, I've got Star Wars and math, and then these are his Green Arrow socks, because we also watch Arrow and Flash and Supergirl and DC Legends, which are all in the same universe and have done crossover TV shows and whatever. Anyway, I need to find that progress keeper, because I had a Green Arrow progress keeper on the other sock and I don't know where I put it, so I need to find it. This is the second sock. The first sock is in here and finished. So I'm knitting this out of Knit Picks Hawthorne Fingering in the Forest Park colorway. So it's this really nice, like, dark green and gray variegated yarn, and I'm using solid gray for the toes and such. Hello, Marjorie. Just let yourself in, honey bun. Just open my door, okay? The door to my craft room doesn't shut very well, so Marjorie just has to push on the door to open it. Which means I can't throw food away in my trash in here, because she'll come in and just help herself. So now that the door is open, you might be able to hear Michael's power tools. He's in his little wood shop, making more things. Anyway, yeah, so Knit Picks Hawthorne Fingering in Forest Park. That's what I was saying. She's just shopping around. I've got solid gray for the toes, heels, and cuff. And this is Cloudborne fibers in the Superwash Merino Sock Twist. And the color is Charcoal Heather. So they're very different yarns, the Hawthorne and the Cloudborne Merino. So we'll see how they wear and how they feel. But so far I'm liking knitting them. So I'm knitting these toe up. I did a Turkish cast on. I'm just doing a plain vanilla sock, so stockinette stitch. I'm doing a Fish Lips Kiss heel and 1x1 ribbing at the top, and then Lori's Twisty Bind Off is the plan, because that's what I did on the first sock. So, yep. So obviously, I still need to take care of my ends. And I'm noticing that is becoming more of a problem for me, and I really need to remember to finish my ends. Anyway, yep, so here we go. Getting close, halfway up the foot, looks like, so decent progress. I think last time I showed this to you, I was still, yes, I was still in the toe last time. So I put all this green on. It is not huge progress, but I'm telling you guys, it has been a busy, busy week. I'm using US size 1 needles, which is a 2.25 millimeter. I've got my ChowGoose, which is my favorite brand. It is a 40-inch cable, and I'm knitting these magic loop style. So, which I'm loving. I'm loving this style of knitting. Okay. I hate the sound of that sander. So my last work in progress is actually a new cast on, and I cast this on last night. So I I guess I'll show you first what, okay, so my new cast on is actually a sweater for my dad, and if you've been watching the podcast for a while, then you've heard the story, and if not, I'll just go ahead and reshare it. So I learned to crochet when I was 5, and first thing I of course wanted to make a sweater for my dad as a 5-year-old. I had no idea what I was doing. And it's been kind of a running joke that I have yet to make a sweater for Dad. So I'm finally doing it. So we sat down and picked out a pattern. So Dad picked, let me find the cover page. He picked The Ranger by Jared Flood, which is really snazzy. Whatever. Okay, so it's a textured cardigan. You can see, yeah, cool. It's a textured cardigan, and this is a paid-for pattern, by the way. So, I'm only going to show you the cover page, but all right. So it is a worsted weight pattern, and the gauge in the textured pattern is kind of insane. And I'm wondering if maybe, so the suggested yarn is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. And I'm wondering if maybe that yarn isn't quite as thick as the yarn that I'm using. Because I'm using acrylic worsted weight yarn, and I feel like it's got to be thicker than that Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. So the pattern calls for US size 8 needles, which are 5mm. So I knit a swatch. I did my gauge swatch, and out of the yarn requested, and I had to use size 4 needles to get gauge. It calls for 8. I had to use 4 to get, and I didn't even get gauge exactly. I got really darn close. So, yeah. And it says you're going to need your gauge needle, one size lower, and then another size lower. So since I need size 4s to get gauge, I'm also going to need 3s and 2s. And I'm just not digging the idea of knitting with worsted weight with size 2s. But I'll do it for you, Dad. I'll do it for you. So, okay. So I brought this over to Dad's and had him, make sure that he liked the feel and the look and everything before making a whole sweater. Got his measurements, and he decided, you know what, I don't want blue, because he said he has a lot of blue things, so let's do gray instead. And inside I was kind of like, yay, I don't have to use this blue again. So, yeah, because you know how it is knitting with dark colors. It's hard to read your knitting. So I would do it, and it would look, it would look really good, right, as a cardigan. So that's fine. Anyway, so he picked gray. All right. So the way the pattern is written, you knit the sleeves first. It's a bottom-up sweater, so we're going to knit the sleeves cuff up. I'm going to do those. Then the body from the bottom up, then join everything together and knit the yoke. So it's a different construction than the other garments I've knit, which should be fine. I'm just going to follow the pattern, and everything should be fine. So I cast on a sleeve last night. So we went with the gray, the lighter gray, and I think it looks pretty cool. It's almost going to be like a coat. I think it's going to be more like a coat and less like a cardigan. Like, I'm wearing a cardigan. I like mine to be kind of light. I feel like this is going to be more like a coat, which he said he was fine with. So, yep. It's going to be really warm. I feel like I might want one of these. Yep. Anyway. Yeah, I'm really excited. So I worked on this last night while we were watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm knitting a Jared Flood pattern, you guys. So, yeah, I'm having fun. Finally started something for Dad. Another big project to go with the blanket, but, you know, it's gonna work out. So, yeah, so I did the ribbing in the size 3s. I switched to the size 4s for the main part of the sleeve here. I'm using my Chow Goose Magic Loop style on this sleeve. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I was thinking of doing 2 at a time with the sleeves, but look at how much room is left on my needles. Not much. So I'm glad I'm doing it 1 at a time. So, yeah, and I don't plan on modifying this pattern. Like, the measurements all work out. Dad's measurements with the measurements in the pattern. So it should be fine, as long as I keep gauge, and as long as I keep, like, having fittings with Dad. He did say he probably wants the body to be a bit longer than the pattern calls for, so we'll just have to make sure we try things on as we go. So, yeah, I'm excited. And it looks so good in the gray. So the yarn is Karen. I got a pound. My gosh, whatever. I originally got this for me. I was gonna I was gonna knit myself a cropped cardigan out of this, and then when Dad said light gray, I was like, oh yeah. So I'll need to get another one of these because this doesn't have quite enough yardage. It says somewhere on here 812 yards about, and I think I'm going to need double that. So at some point I'll have to go get another one of these from the store, and since it's not hand-dyed yarn, you know, hopefully the dye lots won't be that different and we'll be fine. Anyway, I'm excited. Okay. So, those are my current works in progress. Of course, I have another one in the works being planned. And I am just so glad I figured out that knitting sweaters is not the hardest thing in the world. It's not the easiest, but as long as I'm following a pattern, it's fine. So I went through my library and was looking at sweaters for Dad. And of course, there were a few in there that I was like, oh, I want to make that. Oh, I want to make that, of course, for me. So I want to cast this on soon as well. I don't know how soon it will happen, but I bought yarn for it. So this is a free pattern, and I'll show you the picture first. This is the sweater I want to make next for me. I like the stripes. I like that it's a real simple pattern to follow. I want to keep making simple sweaters until I feel comfortable enough to branch out and try more intricate ones like color work. I definitely want to wait on the color work until I feel more confident. So this pattern is Here we go. It's called Raglan Pullover by Joanne Lowe. Okay. And it's free. It's on Ravelry. And yeah, I wanna knit this puppy. So I bought yarn for it yesterday. We went to Midland and had a long day in Midland and didn't quite find the yarn that I wanted, but I got some yarn on sale and I think I spent $12 on yarn for this sweater. Yeah. Now, yeah, it's acrylic, but a $12 sweater? Seriously? I'm mostly thinking, like, okay, I want to take sweaters camping. Like, all snuggled up by the campfire. Yeah. So it doesn't need to be wool for me. In fact, acrylic's going to be easier to wash than the wool, so that's my thought. Anyway, so yeah, I'm thinking about knitting the sweater, and if a bunch of you are thinking about knitting this sweater or a sweater, I would love to know, because I wouldn't mind having another knit along, like a garment knit along or something. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Either comment below or on Ravelry in the forums or something. Okay? If there's interest, I'll totally do it. Yeah, and have prizes and everything. Okay. So, that wraps it up for this week. I didn't really get a lot done. It's been a really busy week with work. And next weekend, we're thinking about possibly going camping. So if we end up going camping, there will not be an episode next weekend. And if we don't go camping, then I'll have an episode. I might post some videos or something, but it won't be like a regular episode if we go camping. So that's that. So I'll either see you in another week or in 2 weeks, depending on the weather and what happens next week. So stay in touch. Comment below with your thoughts on another knit along. Join in the Cozy Couch Make Along. And I will see you guys in a week or two. Happy knitting. Bye.